SpongeBob SquarePants was the greatest cartoon ever. Since May 1st, 1999, SpongeBob SquarePants, a cartoon created by late marine biologist Stephen Hillenburg, has kept hundreds of millions of people entertained throughout over 65 countries. But over the 20 years SpongeBob has been on the air, there have been quite a few changes that may have affected the course of the show, and from 3 cinematic movies to 2 TV movies, $13 billion in total grossings from merchandising alone, numerous awards, and over 400 episodes of trivia, SpongeBob SquarePants is no doubt one of the most successful cartoons of all time, on par with the likes of The Simpsons, Scooby-Doo, and Looney Tunes. But while the run of SpongeBob and all the accomplishments may be impressive, it all leads back to humble beginnings. This is the ultimate SpongeBob retrospective, going through the reasons SpongeBob SquarePants has, and always will have, sweet, sweet victory. Like I said, SpongeBob SquarePants, while being the monstrous cash cow it is today, only came from humble beginnings, over 20 years ago. But before we start talking about SpongeBob, I think we should talk about a man named Stephen Hillenburg. But before we talk about him, let's talk about a show named Rocko's Modern Life. But before we talk about that, let's go all the way back to 1993. Over 25 years ago, the world was a very different place. The internet had just been created, the news computer looked like this, and the news TV looked like this. Google, Yahoo, YouTube, and Twitter didn't exist. The newest films you could watch were Home Alone 2 and Mrs. Doubtfire, and most people enjoyed watching Mr. Bean and David Letterman, rather than the plethora of television shows we have today. Internet connections were 20,000 times slower than they are now, and most Americans didn't even have a broadband internet connection to begin with. Memes didn't exist, the MCU didn't exist, the iPhone XS didn't exist, animated feature didn't exist, and the only thing there were more of back then were Oscars viewers, apparently. Joking aside, needless to say, the world was a very different place 25 years ago. Around that time, many cartoons from various television studios started production, like Animaniacs, VeggieTales, and Rocko's Modern Life. Created by Joe Murray in association with Nickelodeon, Rocko's Modern Life is a cartoon about a wallaby Rocko and his friends Heifer, Spunky, and Filbert, who spend episodes facing challenges life throws at them. Now, at the time, Rocko's Modern Life was loved for its original premise, edgy adult humor, and overall funny presence as an original Nicktoon. And while parents weren't too crazy about letting their young children watch it, it was no doubt one of the most influential Nicktoons ever made. Because out of the creative directors and producers, Steve McDonnell Hillenburg, also known as Stephen Hillenburg, jumped ship to create his own show, and being a creative artist who was also a marine biologist, he wrote a comic named The Intertidal Zone, starring Bob the Sponge and other undersea animals. So after The Intertidal Zone, Hillenburg took inspiration from Rocko and created a cartoon about a talking sea sponge who lives in a... What? I can't hear you!
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Originally called SpongeBoy Ahoy, SpongeBob SquarePants took its name after Hillenburg decided it has a nice ring to it. If you were wondering, SpongeBoy wasn't used because it was the copyrighted name of a mop brand. Anyway, after the success of Rocko, Hillenburg, along with Tom Kenny and Doug Lawrence, voices of SpongeBob and Plankton, all jumped ship from Rocko to SpongeBob. And yes, a lot of other show creators like Chris Savino, future creator of The Loud House, and Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, future creators of Phineas and Ferb, also used to work on Rocko, along with Carlos Alazraki, who you might know as the voice of Mr. Crocker in The Fairly OddParents. So yeah, Rocko did set place a big hallmark in Western animation at the time, giving birth to many successful careers going forward. But now, it's 1997. The first episode of an obscure show called SpongeBob SquarePants is pitched to Nickelodeon, which is an amazing story in and of itself. Hillenburg and Dryman created a tiny version of Bikini Bottom and carried it into the boardroom with Hawaiian shirts on and Hawaiian music playing, explaining each character and the plot of the pilot, Help Wanted. After a couple minutes, Nickelodeon greenlit the show, and it's all history from there. After 2 years, the pilot was made, and on May 1st, 1999, Help Wanted was released as the first of many episodes of one of the most successful cartoons ever.
Hi there.
Imagination.
Starring an anthropomorphic Stan Laurel-esque sea sponge who lives in a pineapple under the sea, next to his grumpy neighbor and dumb starfish friend, works at a fast food restaurant with a cheap boss, and spends his free time jellyfishing and blowing bubbles, SpongeBob's premise was unlike anything ever made. And even today, over 20 years later, Nickelodeon is still trying to find the next SpongeBob. The success of the show was just too immense to put into words. So let's not put it into words, and instead go through every season, every moment, and every chunk of history, and break down why this show is so spectacular. But before we start our journey, I think it may be fun to conduct a bit of an experiment. And this will lead into my next point quite well. For every person watching this video right now, go to your preferred social media website, browse around, and try not to see a SpongeBob related meme or joke somewhere. It's simply impossible, because what makes SpongeBob so successful is the comedy. Heck, even my own channel is mainly based off SpongeBob related content, and my most famous series is about SpongeBob. You may be asking, why is SpongeBob so successful when other shows released around the same time with a similar premise just aren't? Well, I think the answer to that question will be answered with a little more context, so let's get into the journey of SpongeBob SquarePants, starting with Season 1. So, we start from rock bottom. No, literally. After Help Wanted was a more than successful pilot, both through its greenlighting and in terms of introducing this new cartoon, SpongeBob SquarePants had a fresh start. And through Nickelodeon's patience, it grew to a TV giant. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's start from the beginning. Season 1 was a great season, and as an introductory season, it could have been a lot worse. It introduced a set of characters in the first few episodes, and grew them into true personalities in episodes like Fun or Pizza Delivery. It even had all the characters come together in a huge plot, like in Culture Shock. Season 1 formed a very strong foundation for the Sponge, both through episode quality and forming consistent TV ratings, averaging about 2 million viewers from the information we have. Season 1 was like the bun of a burger. It may not be the best part of the burger to most people, but without it, the burger falls apart and is inedible and hard to eat. With Season 1, it seems like understanding what made this show work, just from the first set of introductory episodes. So, it seemed like Season 1 formed a great plane for the future of the show to build on, and that is the truth. But don't worry, it only gets greater from here. Season 2 was a great opportunity for the team working on SpongeBob to show their true talents after the success of the introductory Season 1. To me, Season 2 was a season of characters. Every episode in this season focuses on a character, mainly SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward. Squidville shows that while Squidward may hate SpongeBob, he can't live without the enjoyment. I'm Your Biggest Fanatic shows SpongeBob that his idol isn't all he seems, and that he only wanted his failure in the end. Pressure shows all the characters to appreciate their environment, and also the environment of others, through hilarious puppetry and humor. This season focused on the characters, and two episodes that show this the most clearly are Dying for Pie and Bang Geeks.
And now, a true musical genius who needs no introduction.
Screw you, Super Bowl 53. Screw everything you stand for. You're a money-grubbing excuse for an annual event, and you disgust me in your clickbaity ways. You mask the world's beauty. You grotesque, disgusting, uncultured swine! Where were we? Sorry. So, Bang Geeks and Dying for Pie. These two episodes go down in my mind as some of the best episodes of all of SpongeBob. And while they aren't my absolute favorites, they are still up there for sure. Dying for Pie may be surprising, but it is the episode that most strongly and most emotionally grows on the dynamic between SpongeBob and Squidward. I think M. Lemon's video on this topic explained this a lot better, but to paraphrase, SpongeBob and Squidward, while being in the same environment of having to work minimum wage at a fast food place, having a dream that is looked down upon by society, and having a lot in common personality-wise, have two different viewpoints on life. And no episode shows this more subtly and more powerfully than Dying for Pie. Squidward feels bad for SpongeBob after he thinks he put a bomb in him, and tries to make his last day his best. Episodes with Squidward and SpongeBob are just so good because of the dichotomy between Squidward's negative pessimism and SpongeBob's joyful optimism. And Bang Geeks is pretty obvious in and of itself, being a huge special with the fantastic ending, interesting plot, and a great use of the whole cast. Generally, Season 2 was a season of growth, and growth is very important, but remember, growth is only important to help unlock one's greatest potential. My My favorite season, hands down, was season 3. So many of my favorites were shown here. From the hilarious Chocolate with Nuts or SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, the creative Algae's Always Greener or camping episode, the meme-malicious Just One Bite or Pranks a Lot, the unforgettable One Crab's Trash or Squilliam Returns, and my all-time favorite episode of SpongeBob, Can You Spare a Dime? All these episodes tell stories, and from each you could take away so much. Just take 3 random episodes and tell me the plots. Plankton's Army being a hilarious episode that tells us Plankton's name and introduces his family of other plankton. Just One Bite being an amazing episode that gave us endless memes to love forever, about Squidward finally trying a Krabby Patty and secretly loving it. To Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5, where Barnacle Boy is tired of being treated like a child, so he joins the dark side, and SpongeBob and his friends must fight him, Man Ray, and the Dirty Bubble. The unforgettableness of this season makes each episode a story to tell, while later episodes of the show lack that quality. Season 3 was the peak of the iceberg for SpongeBob's legacy, and from here it gets interesting. So yeah, the pre-movie era of SpongeBob made room for some of the best animation has to offer. It created so many awesome jokes, memes, and moments that are still quoted all around the world. It seemed like this was a great show to end off, right? Right? Now we transition to a different time, a time where the only thing Nick cared about was money. The first movie being a huge success, both with box office results raking in 4.5 times its budget, to the fantastic critical acclaim it got. Being a movie set in the world of SpongeBob, it did a fantastic job of taking us on an adventure with SpongeBob and Patrick, a new cast of characters, stellar new animation, and a beautiful Anki Hasselhoff to end it all off. The first movie was amazing. And while the nostalgia makes me always lean towards this one versus the second one, I feel like Sponge Out of Water did a better job as a movie, if I'm being honest. But this is also the part of this journey where a lot of old writers and producers, including Stephen Hillenburg, parted ways with SpongeBob, handing the creative director role to former writer and storyboard director, Paul Tibbitt. Rather than end the show off entirely, Nickelodeon decided this show is just too valuable to throw away like that. Obviously, with the former crew of writers and creative minds jumping ship, a lot of changes proceeded to happen. And while I believe season 4 was still a very fun season, it definitely had a couple stinkers to accompany it. Season 4 was where the show took a very slow decline down to the depths. But it sure didn't start off that way. The first episode, Fear of a Krabby Patty, was one of the funniest episodes of the whole show in my opinion. It started season 4 off in a reassuring manner, which I think was well needed for the fans after the first movie. After that, episodes like Squidward, Squidtastic Voyage, Wigstruck, and The Thing came up, but then again, so did Dungeons and Dragons or Krusty Towers. So it seems like the change in the team did make a significant dent in the show's quality, but it is still up there with the pre-movie seasons in many fans' minds, including myself. But while it may not have taken a complete nosedive into oblivion, it still wasn't at the peak that it was in seasons 2 or 3. Episodes were more pandering and had more filler, there were more Squidward torture episodes, and overall it just wasn't at the rank that pre-movie was. But if you think that's bad, just you wait. Season 5, in my opinion, is where the show fully embraced its nosedive into mediocrity. The episodes started getting so lackluster and overall mediocre that even my own video reviewing Season 5 showed that the majority of episodes were good and meh. Season 5 came out with some of the worst episodes from the show, and proportionately less good episodes to boot. A lot of fans stopped enjoying SpongeBob around Season 5, which seemed appropriate knowing what comes next. Episodes in the season seemed to take themselves more seriously and overall make the themes presented seem too stupid to take seriously, even though they are taken seriously in the episode. Take Fungus Among Us, for example. It takes the stupid plot of SpongeBob getting a type of fungus attached to him, and the episode takes it so seriously with the dialogue and music. And while building emotion is important in a show like SpongeBob, it's been proven that it's not necessary to succeed, especially in a dumb plot like Fungus Among Us. And while I don't hands down hate this season, things like the change of animation from hand-drawn to computer-drawn makes you think that they definitely believed in change. And correct or not, something unique was the determining factor in the decline of the show, and it all started getting terrible from the beginning of season 6. discuss Season 6. Season 6 was the bottom of the trench for SpongeBob's quality, right? I mean, yeah, it had a ton of bad episodes, some that are pretty much unwatchable today, some that will go down in history for being the most infamous episodes of any cartoon ever. But was it really that bad? Sure, it had episodes like Truth or Square, Boating Buddies, The Splinter, Choir Boys, but at what expense? No Hat for Pat, Not Normal, or Sandcastles in the Sand? Look, no matter what you think of Season 6, creative burnout was inevitable. After 211-minute episodes, what do you expect? Well, you think Nickelodeon, after knowing this was happening, would do two things. 1. Take the show off the air to avoid a decline in quality, or 2. Keep the show on but spend more money on it to ensure the team working on it has confidence in making something successful. Well, they did neither. They didn't take it off the air because SpongeBob was the biggest it's ever been back then, and they didn't invest in it because... why? Not having money is not an option because reportedly SpongeBob makes more than 5% of Viacom's total earning, not Nickelodeon's, the disgustingly rich and powerful Viacom. The same Viacom that blocks half my videos for copyright infringement. Anyway, knowing that SpongeBob makes this much money, you'd think they'd care some more about it. But nope. This is also around the time the creators started adding more disturbing faces and disgusting features in every episode. It seemed like you couldn't go a single episode without a massive vein or disgusting pimples squirting pus everywhere. The show had taken a completely different tone, and went from being the funny, happy-go-lucky show all kids and parents could enjoy, to a gross, edgy, and frankly mediocre filler show to waste 11 minutes of your life on. No matter if you liked or disliked Season 6, you have to admit that it was not on par with the likes of the pre-movie season. The tone had shifted, and not for the better. But does it get worse? This is as low as SpongeBob's quality dips. Starting with the unimaginably annoying tentacle vision, it was obvious Season 7 was a stinker. Some of the worst episodes from the show were back-to-back in this season. A Pal for Gary, Stuck in the Ringer, Yours, Mine, and Mine, Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, A Day Without Tears. It seems like the lack of quality in this season was as apparent as it gets. The passion that once went into making each and every episode had been stripped away, revealing a lackluster, disturbing, and generally stupid cluster of drivel, permanently shattering the golden caliber SpongeBob once had. SpongeBob as a character had been changed from an adult with childish instincts to just an annoying kid who cries over everything. If you want to see exactly how annoying this season is, rather than watching the terrible episodes I listed before, watch an episode called You Don't Know Sponge, which is just about the most boring thing in the world, with SpongeBob being a brainless child with none of the former charisma he used to have. If you really look into it, you'd see how truly mediocre this season can get. SpongeBob could no longer return to the status quo after Yours, Mine, and Mine or A Pal for Gary. It was just that bad. SpongeBob was on the ropes, and even the Legends of Bikini Bottom felt lazy and thrown together. And if I could say one thing to finish off Season 7, it would be, who put you on the planet? Ugh. Now, personally, I have a bit of a bias towards Season 8, since 3 of my favorite episodes come from this season, but I will try to avoid being biased towards it. But how much better was Season 8 than Season 6 or 7? Well, there were 5 22-minute specials in this season, and 3 of them were some of the best the series ever had, even better than the pre-movie specials in my opinion. Frozen Face-Off was a fun plot where all the characters were put together to complete an objective, and each character does something productive to further the story. It offered comedic moments, and knew when to stop and move on. Hello Bikini Bottom is a greatly executed musical episode growing on the dynamic between SpongeBob and Squidward, with an epic 2 songs to accompany the already hilarious antics they go through. It's a SpongeBob Christmas utilizes fantastic stop-motion animation to retell SpongeBob's Christmas story. Plankton and SpongeBob's characters are used exceptionally here, and the songs are some of the best to ever come out of the SpongeBob soundtrack. And yes, I love these specials, but what about the normal 11-minute episodes that came out of this season? Pet Sitter Pat, Are You Happy Now, Face Freeze, and Smooth Jazz were some of the worst the series ever got, but they were still part of a growing season. I like to think of Season 6 as the season with the most bad episodes, Season 7 with the most lackluster episodes, and Season 8 with the worst episode quality. So yes, Season 8's bad episodes may have been worse than Season 6's, but Season 6 had more to begin with. Anyhow, Season 8 was definitely a season that brought the quality up from the trench that Season 6 and 7 created. So let's moving up, and forward, into Season 9. Running running from 2012 to 2017, Season 9 was the longest running season to ever come out of SpongeBob. The reason for this may have been because of the production of the second movie taking up the time of the producers. That is why most fans split up Season 9 into 9A and 9B. 9B is also known by most fans to be a much better season than 9A. Episodes like Little Yellow Book, Squid Baby, and SpongeBob You're Fired made it seem like Season 9A was merely following Season 8's footsteps in its quality. Since the team working on the episodes also had the second movie on their plate, it wasn't exactly expectable for the episodes to be amazing. After the second movie, which we'll get to, 9B seemed to be a lot better in comparison. Both parts of the season were now in full screen HD, and rather than being presented in a 4:3 ratio, like it previously was, it was now in 16:9. And rather than having non-stop squid or torture episodes, or having Patrick be a jerk, the episodes took more of a lighthearted approach for the most part. But now, let's talk about... oh wait, what's that sound? In all seriousness, the second movie is a very respectable piece of art. Made in a scary time for the series, the second movie was like a splash of water in the faces of these tired creators. I'll try not to discuss my thoughts on the movie as of right now because I think that'll make a good video individually, but all you need to know right now is that I absolutely love this movie, and I think it could fit well in the pre-movie era, if we're discussing quality. Its animation is gorgeous in both aspects, and the story is extremely well presented, as well as the characters. And it sort of acted as the benchmark for the show, because after this, the show took a turn for the best. If you haven't seen my video with C.R. Martin on this season I uploaded last month, I will check it out. Anyway, Season 10 is a perfectly fine season, and although being a very short season, it shows that these creators could have kept SpongeBob good if they really tried. Feral Friends and Mimic Madness are some of my favorites going forward, and I hope they keep the show on the same level as Season 10. Now, I'm not going to keep going and talk about the infinite amount of future episodes like you'd expect. I just think since they all haven't fully aired yet, I'd not talk about them. Plus, they aren't too special to begin with. We've still got a third movie and probably endless episodes until Viacom finally admits that this show is going to be Simpsons 2.0 in the next few years. So before we end, I'd like to propose a question. When was the true end of SpongeBob SquarePants? Well, there are multiple moments that are classified as the end of SpongeBob. Maybe you're thinking the end of Bang Geeks, when Squidward is finally happy and is thrown into the air in sweet victory. Maybe you're thinking the end of the first movie, where SpongeBob is given the managerial position at the Krusty Krab in magnificent glory as it ends on Ocean Man. Maybe two of you are thinking of SpongeBob's Last Stand and how it apparently meant to be the series finale. Maybe you're thinking of Truth or Square, or Pranks-a-Lot, or the second movie, or any episode from season 11. No matter what we think the end of SpongeBob is, we still have to face the fact that SpongeBob is endless. The amount of hilarious moments, quotes, and memes can be put into an album for future generations to enjoy. And no matter what anyone says, SpongeBob SquarePants is my favorite cartoon ever. It was created with passion and molded into what it is today. And after so much history, there is still even more to learn about the show. And after 20 whole years, the show is still as successful as it's ever been, entertaining millions of people of all ages all around the world, and with pride. SpongeBob wasn't a flashy marketing strategy to fill the pockets of rich studio CEOs. It was made from passion, and while it may be even more successful financially than any of those flashy advertisements, that just goes to show how amazing it just is. And now, 20 years later, there's a third movie set to come out next year, there are SpongeBob spin-offs in the works, and the show is still going as strong as ever with the original show. It may not go back to the spectacular quality it had in the original days, but that's just because those first 120 episodes were the culmination of something irreplaceable. And while a lot of us may just see SpongeBob as a stupid kids show to fill 11 minutes, you have to remember that it sure didn't start out that way. It only came from humble beginnings. No matter what anyone says, I think we can all agree that SpongeBob SquarePants was the greatest cartoon ever. So, thanks for watching. This video is my way of giving back to my favorite cartoon ever after it gave me so many laughs and happy times growing up. This retrospective took a span of over 2 months to put together, and I had a lot of fun editing it, so I hope you enjoyed watching. If you're interested in something I said here, or you like my song choices in this one, credits to the respective sources as well as music sources can be found in the description, along with my Twitter and Discord, which I would appreciate you following to support me and my future creations on this channel. This was a big one coming, so I apologize if I couldn't upload more these past couple weeks, and I'm working to improve my video schedule a little bit as well as balancing my personal life, so I hope you understand. If you're not already, consider subscribing and dropping a like, and tell me all your thoughts in the comments below, as I'm very curious to hear them after only listening to my own voice for 2 months straight. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!
beautiful dreamer out on the sea. Mermaids are chanting the wild Lorelei. Over the streamlet, vapors are born, waiting to fade at the bright coming morn.